Hey guys, this is BigMoran, and this is going to be my guide on how to Shadowmeld effectively. Shadowmeld is exclusive to Night Elves, and it is their main racial ability. Shadowmeld has dynamic usages. For druids, it can be used offensively and defensively, which I will highlight in this video. Overall, I think it is the strongest healing racial at the moment. There are a few uses to Shadowmeld. Shadowmeld can be used to avoid incoming CC. Shadowmeld can also be used to drop the focus targets of the enemy team so you can get a cast off cleanly. By this I mean you can avoid a counterspell from a mage who might have you as focus, and you can Shadowmeld to have him drop his focus so you can probably get a cast off without worrying about being counterspelled. The same thing applies to abilities like Charge, Strangulate, and Death Grip, for example. You can use Shadowmeld if you need to get a clutch heal off and are worried about getting either charged and death gripped or strangulated, something like that. I'm going to highlight the first usage of Shadowmeld by showing how you can Shadowmeld fears from priests and warlocks. You could also Shadowmeld fears by warriors, but warrior fear is harder to track and, less obvious when the warrior is going to use this fear. But basically in these clips, what I'm doing is I'm waiting for the priest to get really close to me before using Shadowmeld. I want to make sure that he has fear up, so I used an add-on to track the cooldown on his psychic scream. The add-on I use is Icicle, and I also use Interrupt Bar. The Interrupt Bar I'm using actually is modified to include cooldowns like Fear, Scatter, and Silencing Shot. I'll provide a download link for this add-on in the video description. As you can see, and as I've mentioned before, I'm waiting for the priest to get right on top of me before I use Shadowmeld. The next clip will highlight the other use of Shadowmeld, which is basically to avoid any other ability which would prohibit you from casting. This includes Counterspell, Charge, Strangulate, Death Grip, Repentance, Hammer of Justice, stuff like that. Basically, if you need to get a clutch heal off, you can use a Shadowmeld before healing so that heal probably won't be interrupted. The way this is possible is when you Shadowmeld, the enemy team loses focus. If their focus target is currently set to the druid, the focus target will drop and they'll have to reset the frame manually. This allows you to carefully sneak in one heal or one cyclone. In this clip, my rogue is dropping dangerously low. I notice that the hunter doesn't have silencing shot up, but the warrior does have charge up. So what I do to avoid the charge is I just Shadowmeld before casting a regrowth. This allows me to cleanly get the cast off. In this clip, I'm going for an offensive clone on a Ret Paladin. Because I'm worried about getting Repentanced on my cast, or Strangulated, or even Death Gripped on my cast, I use Shadowmeld right before casting Cyclone to ensure that I get the cast off. Now, sometimes you won't always Shadowmeld CC, and sometimes you'll actually waste the cooldown. So it is important that you try to use it as effectively as possible, and as accurate as possible. In this clip, I get feared right to a Paladin who has Hammer of Justice up. Now, at this point in the game, I was thinking that the Paladin would surely Hammer of Justice me, so I Shadowmeld as soon as I break the fear, because I'm worried that he'll actually hodge me out of the fear. This Paladin actually doesn't do that, so I kinda waste the cooldown. Instances like this can occur often with Shadowmeld, so you won't always be able to use the cooldown properly. The biggest thing is to know your opponents. If this Paladin had in previous games hodged me out of every single fear, it would have been a wise decision to Shadowmeld. If he hadn't been doing that in the previous games that we played him, it might have been a good idea to just hold the Shadowmeld. Thank you for watching this guide, and make sure to stay subscribed to Next Level PvP, and we'll provide you with more instructional guides on how to use specific abilities.